called the United States. So remember, they are spreading fear, and they're trying to see that the first president who looks like me fails.
Talk about aggressive prosecutions. I was with you. I was out there this week covering that the preliminary hearing that you see here, in which the judge ruled that there will be a trial. And what was interesting to me is that you talked about having subpoenas, getting records from the Acorn office itself, and that helped make the case. That we haven't seen that happen in some other places around the country where the workers are the ones who get hit.
Look, I took this job. I was a former criminal prosecutor before I became the state's chief elections officer, and I assured the public that I was going to take very seriously the election laws on our books. We issued subpoenas in the case, but we took the additional step and executed a search warrant at their headquarters. And it was ultimately most of the materials that we recovered from that warrant that led to the investigation. And in every other instance where Acorn's been charged, they've simply gone after the individual canvassers and charged them with fraud. We've been able to substantiate charges and I think have a very solid case to prove that it's not just a few bad apples. It went very much higher up in the organization, and that ultimately Acorn and their regional director should be held accountable for the criminal activity that took place.
Or do you think it's fair that just the workers so many times are the ones who are held accountable? I mean, it doesn't seem that a lot of other prosecutors have gone in and subpoenaed the records from Acorn's headquarters.
Obviously, we believe that it went much higher on the food chain. They had a quota system in place. They were paying individuals this blackjack. That encourages voter registration fraud, and that's why it's important that we go after them and charge them criminally and try to obtain a conviction. And you know, they constantly say, look, we just had a bad apple. We had a bad employee, like most people do. You know, clearly that's not the case. This is an organization that came to Nevada, hired people that were still in prison, convicted of identity theft, that were on work release programs.
Wait a minute.
Canvass these voters.
Hired people still in prison?
Correct. There's a transitional housing facility, Casa Grande, down there. Acorn approached them and hired individuals that were still in prison, some of them convicted of serious offenses, identity theft, a violation of state law that these inmates should not have had contact with people's personal information. Those were the individuals that were out canvassing people. So it's no surprise then that you know, many of the forms that those individuals turned in would be fraudulent, and that burdened the system. We have safeguards in place, and we're ultimately able to keep those names off the voter registration rolls, but that doesn't mean it's not criminal, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go after these people and charge them criminally and try to obtain a conviction.
Yeah, your own statistics showed what, about 47% of what Acorn turned in did not match the records. Acorn, though, says, look, you're conducting a political prosecution. This is all political targeting. Acorn, they deny any guilt. The regional director who's charged, her lawyer denies any guilt, says she tries to stop it. You're a Democrat. Is this based on politics, as Acorn claims?
When we first executed the search warrant, they responded that day and said, look, this is all politically motivated. And then it was pointed out to them that I'm a Democrat and the Attorney General is also a Democrat. And then they shifted and they began to say, look, this is just political grandstanding. You know, they're obviously just trying to point the finger to shift the blame. Even Acorn's own representative has admitted that what they did in Las Vegas was wrong, but they say that it was limited to the individual canvassers and the individual field director. Obviously, we believe that it goes much higher up than that, and that's why we charged Acorn and their regional field director, because that's what the evidence will show at trial, we believe.
All right, there'll be
encouraging prostitution, money laundering, tax evasion, voter fraud. Just some of the accusations against the group Acorn. Allegations so outrageous that many states are investigating Acorn. The U.S. Senate just cut off taxpayer funds to them. The L.A. Times calls their actions criminal activity. And who funds Acorn? This union, the SEIU, which also funds Steve Shannon and Virginia Democrats. So what do we hear from Steve Shannon and Virginia Democrats about Acorn's criminal activities? Silence. No wonder. The SEIU, Acorn, Steve Shannon, a trio Virginia can't afford to put in power.